Welcome back. Tonight, you're not just going to hear a story, you're going to wear it, like a mildew-black robe that never quite dries. You won't be a king, not a knight, not even the guy who sharpens their swords. You're the executioner, a municipal ghost with a municipal salary, somewhere in a damp, forgettable European village around 1300. You live with rats, eat behind chicken coops, and kill people for a living. It's not a calling. It's a shift. Forget honor. Forget fanfare. This isn't a world of pageantry. It's a world of cabbage-throwing crowds, half-eaten barley loaves, and children playing execution because they saw you work last week and thought it looked fun. You probably won't survive retirement, but that's fine. No one retires in this job. They just stop waking up. So if your fingers still work, and if they aren't too sticky from wiping down the block, go ahead and like this video. Maybe drop a comment. What was your last meal? Was it warm? Did it require a spoon? Now, dim the lights. Wrap yourself in something that smells like wet rope and unspoken regret, and maybe keep a mop nearby. Blood is stubborn because you're not resting tonight. You're clocking in. Welcome to the year 1300 something. You are the man with the axe. And today, someone dies. Probably more than one. You wake up to the sound of something scurrying. Probably a rat. Hopefully not a ghost. Your bed is a pile of straw that's more splinter than comfort. It smells like old sweat and boiled cabbage. And that's on a good day. Your back hurts, your knees hurt, your soul hurts. But there's no ointment for that. You sit up, your head hits the low ceiling. Again, you mutter a curse. The rat mutters one back. Probably, you reach for your axe. It leans by the door like a tired coworker, not excited to see you. Still sticky with something red and definitely not paint. You grab your whetstone. It's chipped, just like your reputation. You start sharpening. It squeaks, groans, resists. Like everything else in your life, the blade needs to be perfect because today someone dies. And you're the reason. You test the edge. It nicks your thumb. Good. That means it's working. You lick the blood. There's no towel, no soap, no one watching. Your stomach growls. Breakfast? Maybe later, if the baker lets you in. Last time, his kid cried just seeing your face. You step outside. It's cold, damp, judging. A neighbor walks by, doesn't say hi. She used to. Before her cousin disappeared, you didn't do it. But you may have watched. You walk toward the square. Boots heavy, thoughts heavier. Every step says, you're not a hero, you're not a villain, you're a tool. You arrive before the guards. As always, the block is still stained. You wipe it with your sleeve. Why? You don't know. It won't help. A crow lands nearby. It stares at you. You stare back. Two professionals, doing jobs no one respects. You sigh. Sharpening's done. Now comes the hard part, making it look easy. Your work uniform waits in the corner, folded? No, crumpled like shame after confession. It's black, of course, not sleek. Dramatic black. More like mildew-soaked potato sack. Black. You pick it up. It's damp. From what? Rain? Sweat? Time? Unclear. Unimportant. You pull it over your head. It clings in all the wrong places. It smells like mold and old metal. A scent they don't sell in bottles. You tie the belt. It sags. You add the hood. It droops. You look in the mirror. Wait, no. You don't own a mirror. Too risky. You check the boots. One sole flaps when you walk. The other leaks. You're basically wearing soggy betrayal. Your gloves. One is torn. The other is missing. You grab a sock and call it a compromise. Fashion in the 1300s is just survival. Outside, children peek and giggle. "Look, Mama, the man who makes people stop moving." Their mother pulls them away. Fast. Like you might do your job right then and there. You wave. They don't wave back. You head to the courthouse. There's a list posted. Today's name is written in shaky ink. You recognize it. Everyone will? A thief? No. A rebel. Big crowd expected, which means more eyes, more judgment, more accidental elbows in the ribs from guards pretending to secure the area. You take a deep breath. It doesn't help. Back at the square, the platform is ready. Your assistant is not. He's late. Again, you secretly hope he's quit or run away. No one ever does. You lay your tools out. Axe, spare axe, cloth, rope, your one clean rag, stolen from a monk who probably deserved it. You rehearse the swing in your mind. Smooth, clean, no screaming. One can hope. As you kneel to tie your boot, someone throws a cabbage. It misses. You pretend not to notice. Being the executioner means being invisible until it's time to be unforgettable. And today, you'll be both. They say he stole a horse, but when you see him, thin, shivering, wrists too small for the chains, you wonder if he even knew how to ride one. Maybe he was just trying to leave. Maybe he just needed to be somewhere else for a while. Unfortunately, in this town, that's a death sentence. The guards shove him forward. He stumbles. The chain tugs. The crowd laughs. You don't. You've seen this too many times to find it funny. He looks 19, maybe 20. Definitely not old enough to have survived winter on his own, but just old enough to die for public morale. The magistrate clears his throat. He reads the charges like he's announcing dinner. Horse theft, disrespect of property, suspicion of blasphemy. Though that part always finds its way into the script. The crowd reacts on cue. Booing, cheering. One man yells, "Make it fast." You recognize the voice. He sells pigs. 3 stalls down. You sharpen your axe with one of his bones in mind. Your cue comes. The square quiets. The wind changes. You step forward. The axe is heavy in your hands, like it knows what's coming and doesn't approve. You try not to make eye contact. You fail. He's staring at you, not in anger, not in fear, in understanding. And that's worse, because he sees you not as death, but as a man in a costume, someone just doing a job, someone trapped. You hate when they see you like that. You prefer the screams, the curses, even the spitting. That's easier to forget. You take your position behind the block. The boy kneels. His neck is thin, too thin. You adjust your grip. The handle creaks. Your fingers ache. You raise the axe. For a moment, time stretches like bad cheese. Long, sticky, and full of regrets. You hesitate, just slightly, just long enough for the wind to whisper, "Why?" Then you swing. Thud. The blade lands but not clean. Of course not. The first swing never is. Not with these bones. Not with these thoughts in your head. There's a wet crack. The crowd gasps. You lift the axe again. This time, you don't think. You just cut. It's done. You step back. Blood trickles down the platform. A rooster nearby crows, as if to mark the moment. You wonder if it knows what just happened. Probably not. But the children in the front row do. They cheer. One of them mimics your swing, grinning. You make a mental note to be worried about him in 10 years. The body slumps forward. The head rolls a little too far. Someone giggles. Someone vomits. You ignore both. You wipe the blade on your sleeve. The blood leaves a darker stain than usual. You'll try to wash it tonight. You won't succeed. The priest approaches but doesn't speak. He murmurs something toward the body. Blessings, maybe. Maybe just noise to fill the silence. The guards untie what's left of the boy. They drag him away like a sack of mistakes. You're left alone on the platform. Again, you bend to collect your tools. A cabbage flies past your head. You don't flinch. They never throw rocks, only vegetables. Maybe they still want to believe they're better than you. You know better. You look at the crowd. Some leave quickly, like they weren't there at all. Some linger, hoping for an encore. No one looks at you, except one girl, maybe 12, holding her mother's hand. She mouths something. You can't tell if it's why or you. Either way, you nod. You drag a bucket of water up from behind the stage. It's murky. It smells like iron. You splash it across the platform. Blood washes down in slow, syrupy streams. It never really goes away. Neither does the guilt. But at least you got through the morning. And that's all anyone expects of you. You'd think the job ends after the axe falls. It doesn't. Heads roll, crowds cheer. But when they leave, someone has to deal with things. That someone is you. Congratulations. You're not just the blade, you're also the janitor. The blood is still warm. Not metaphorically. Literally. It's soaking through the boards, into your boots. The square has a drainage trench, but it's clogged. With what? You don't ask questions like that. Not if you want to sleep ever again. You grab the bucket. The water inside is brown, foamy, and smells like regret. You splash it on the platform. It hisses when it hits the blood. Or maybe that's just the noise in your head. You scrub with a rag. It used to be white. Now it's more philosophical. Your fingers cramp. The blood gets under your nails. You stopped trying to keep them clean weeks ago. At some point, a tooth rolls out of a crack. You pick it up, put it in your pocket. Why? You don't know. Maybe guilt needs souvenirs. A man walks by, eating a meat pie. He wrinkles his nose at you, like you're the gross part of this scene. You wave. He hurries off. A noblewoman passes next. She covers her child's eyes. You wonder if she covered them during the execution. Spoiler, she didn't. You move on to the basket. It's still there, still holding the head, still staring. You tilt it slightly, so the eyes don't face you. They always find a way back. Heads are like that. You dump the contents into a sack. It squelches. You tie it shut. 1 knot. 2 knots, just to be sure. You carry the sack to the pit behind the wall, the official burial site. It's more of a ditch, shallow, smells like iron and failure. You toss the sack in. It lands with a thunk that echoes in places you don't want to think about. You cover it with dirt. Loose, dry, uninterested dirt. The kind that won't hold a secret for long. You head back to the square. You mop again. The handle's splintered. You get a fresh cut on your palm. Add it to the collection. Your stomach growls. Lunch is technically soon, but you know how this goes. By the time you're done cleaning, everything warm is gone. You'll get the cold end of a barley loaf, if you're lucky. If not, boiled turnip skin and silence. A guard walks by. You missed a spot. He jokes. You don't reply. Because one day, you'll be the last face he sees. And that's not a threat. It's just logistics. A fly lands on your cheek. You swat it. It lands on your mop. Then on the block. You both work here now. Someone coughs behind you. It's the assistant. Late. Again, he offers you a piece of cheese. It's gray. You accept it anyway. Because there are 2 rules in this job. Don't waste food. Never trust a quiet day. You chew in silence. It squeaks. You don't ask why. You finish the cleaning. It's still stained. It always will be. You pack up the tools. Wrap the blades in cloth. Place everything into the box. You close it with a dull clunk. It sounds too much like a coffin. The square is empty now. Just you, the birds, and the stain that refuses to die. You sit down on the edge of the stage, and for a moment, you just breathe. Then someone screams behind you. You sigh, nod again. Lunch is technically served. Technically, what you get isn't food so much as a suggestion that food once existed nearby. A cracked wooden bowl. Inside, barley gruel, gray, lumpy, steaming slightly, like it's trying to leave its own body. You stir it with a piece of stale bread. The bread cracks, not breaks, cracks, like old roof tiles, like your patience. You sit alone, as usual, not on a bench. There's no space on the benches, not because they're full, because you can't sit there. They say it's bad luck, that sitting next to the executioner curses your next 3 meals, or makes your children grow extra fingers, or worse, makes people think you're friends. So, you eat behind the chicken coop. It smells like ammonia and betrayal. The chickens judge you. You judge them back. Across the yard, the guards eat roasted pork. One of them waves a leg at you, not to share, just to show off. You nod. You'll remember that, not today, but someday, when your blade slips. Accidentally, of course. You chew the gruel. It sticks to your teeth. You swallow. It sticks to your regrets. You think about adding salt. Then remember, salt costs money, and you're paid in copper and contempt. You reach for your mug. It's filled with small beer, which is just water that got bored and tried to become alcohol, but gave up halfway. You sip. It tastes like warm bread. Tears. Someone sits down nearby. You freeze. No one ever sits near you. You turn your head slowly, like prey. It's a stray dog. You relax. The dog looks at you. You look at the dog. You both have blood under your nails. You both smell like wet despair. You both chew slowly, like survival is optional. You slide your bread crust toward it. It sniffs, then walks away. Even the dog has standards. You try to enjoy the quiet, then someone ruins it. A kid runs by, laughing. He's wearing a black hood made of rags. He swings a stick and yells, "Off with your head!" The crowd of children behind him cheers. You sigh. You've become a playground game. You used to be feared. Now you're entertainment. The assistant shows up. Late again. He tosses you a carrot. It's limp, bent, looks like it's been stepped on. Twice. You eat it anyway, because pride doesn't fill your stomach. The baker walks by with a basket. You wave. He doesn't wave back, but he doesn't spit either. That's progress. You finish your lunch. Your stomach doesn't thank you. It simply stops screaming, which is the closest you get to satisfaction these days. You wipe your hands on your robe. Bad idea. Now they smell like blood, turnip, and mildew. You don't bother fixing it. You stand. The sun is higher now. The square is filling again. Not for executions this time, just for market. But you know, every time someone glances your way, every time they take the long way around your shadow, they remember and they pretend they don't. You are the man who eats alone, who swings alone, who walks home covered in silence and bits of other people's lives. But for now, there's still work to do, and you're late to your own nightmare. You return from lunch to find a letter nailed to your door. That's never a good sign. No one writes the executioner to say thank you. There's no wax seal, no address, just your name. Misspelled, scratched, bleeding ink, like it regrets being written. You pry it loose, the nail splits the paper. You pretend that's what ruined it. You open it with your thumbnail bleeds. Naturally, Inside, one page, crude handwriting. Smells like old grief. It reads, I saw you kill my brother. He wasn't perfect, but neither are you. I hope you dream of his face. I hope your hands never stop shaking. I hope your axe rusts in your sleep. At the bottom, a fingerprint. Probably blood. Definitely personal. You fold the letter slowly. You've received worse. Once, someone mailed you a dead rat. Once, a toe. You kept that one. It was labeled. But this one, gets under your skin because it's honest, not theatrical, not dramatic, just quietly cruel. The kind of cruelty that sticks. You put the letter in the box with the others. Yes, the box. It lives under your bed. It creaks when you breathe near it. Inside, letters, threats. A drawing from a child who watched your last execution and said you looked sad like the moon. That one hurt the most. You wash your hands. The water is gray, like everything. You don't use soap. There is no soap, just cold and habit. You stare at your reflection in the bucket. The face looks familiar, but older, like someone trying to forget themselves from the inside out. There's a knock, the assistant again. He holds something behind his back. Another letter, he mutters. You hold out your hand. He hesitates, then drops it in your palm. It's sealed, with a wax imprint of a wolf. You know the symbol. It's from the sheriff's office. You open it. Inside, a list. 3 names, 3 crimes, 3 times you'll need to show up before sunset. One of them is a woman. You pause. Women are rare. The crowd gets louder for them. Blood sells better with long hair. You hate that you know that. The assistant shifts beside you. He doesn't ask what's in the letter. He never does. That's why he's still alive. You step outside. The sky has darkened. Not with clouds, with buzzards. They circle low over the gallows, like they've read the schedule, like they know more than you do. You sigh. You check your blade. Still sharp, still yours. You take the letter from under your bed. The first one, the one written in delicate script years ago, from your own brother, before he left town, before he changed his name, before he stopped answering yours. It reads, You're better than this. But I know you won't leave, and I know I can't stay. You fold it, put it back. You sharpen your axe, not because it's dull, because it's the only part of this job you still control. Tomorrow, more letters will come. They always do. Fan mail from hell, and you always read them, because you want to know how far you've fallen and who's watching. You come home before the sun does, not because you're fast, because you have nowhere else to go. Your house isn't really a house. It's a box pretending to be a shelter. 1 room, 1 table, 1 bed, 1 axe. The air inside smells like wood, damp wool, and something that used to be bread. You ignore it, like you ignore most things now. You sit down. The chair creaks. You creak louder. There's no fire, no candle. You can't afford light and nightmares at the same time. So you sit in the half-dark and start your ritual. Counting, no prayers, no dinner. Just counting. You reach under the bed, pull out the ledger. It's not official. No one asked you to keep it. No one wants you to. But you do. Because if you don't write them down, you'll start seeing them in your sleep. And you'd like to at least pretend there's a difference. You open to the last page. Date. Today. Name. Unreadable now. Smeared with blood. Crime. Horse theft. Outcome. 2 swings. Head rolled. Eyes open. You stare at the line. You add a dot. You underline it. You move on. You flip backward. Past names, past crimes. 1 swing. 2 swings. 3 swings. Botched. Screamed. Didn't scream. laughed. That one still bothers you. You stop at the name Thomas H. The boy who thanked you said it was an honor, like you were a priest or a friend. He even smiled. You didn't sleep for 3 days. Next page, Agnes R., accused of poison, pregnant. The crowd threw stones. You did your job. You had to do your job. But sometimes, when it rains, you swear you hear her voice in the thunder. You put the ledger down. Your hands are shaking. You tell yourself it's just the cold. You know it's not. You look around the room. There's a lump under the blanket. You lift it. It's your second pair of clothes. Still damp. Still dirty. You smell them. Why? You don't know. Maybe to prove to yourself that you're still capable of disgust? You are. You pull off your boots. Your socks are stiff. Your feet are blistered. One toe is questionable. You rub it. It resents you. You lie back on the bed. Your axe rests beside you, close, like a pet, or a weaponized conscience. You run a finger along its edge. Still sharp. Good. Your eyes adjust to the dark. You see the rafters. You've thought about carving something there. Your name, a date, anything to prove you existed, but you never do. Because maybe you don't want to be remembered as this. You close your eyes, but you don't sleep. You wait. For what? A scream? A knock? Forgiveness? None of those ever come. Instead, you whisper the names, one by one. All the ones you still remember. That's your real inventory. Not the tally, not the crimes. Just the faces that never fade. And just as you're about to drift off, you hear it. The knock. 3 soft raps. No one knocks at your door. Not unless they have something horrible to say. You sit up. You reach for the axe. Of course, because even when you're not working, you are. You open the door. No one's there. Just the wind. And a half-eaten apple on the step. You don't remember owning an apple, or a neighbor generous enough to give one. You step outside. The sun is melting behind the rooftops, dragging the village into that strange in-between light. Not quite night, but too late to hope for kindness. You walk, no purpose, no direction. You just need to move your legs so your thoughts don't catch up. A child sees you coming. He grabs his sister's hand. She stares too long. He pulls her behind a wagon. They don't say hello. They never do. Once, years ago, a boy did wave. You waved back. The next day, his mother threw a dead chicken at your door. It was a warning. You ate it anyway. You passed the blacksmith. He nods. Barely. You used to drink with him before he stopped inviting you, before his apprentice was accused of heresy, before you were the one sharpening your blade outside his forge at dawn. He doesn't look you in the eye now. You don't blame him. You wouldn't look at you either. The baker's boy runs past. He bumps your arm, then freezes. You turn your head. He looks like he just punched God. "I'm sorry, sir," he whispers. You nod. He runs. You keep walking. You stop at the well. Not because you're thirsty, just because no one else is there. You sit on the stone edge. The rope creaks softly in the breeze. You imagine dropping a message down there. A confession, a goodbye, a scream, but the well never answers. Much like everyone else, you see a couple in the distance. She laughs. He wraps his arm around her. They don't see you. Good. You're the kind of person who ruins laughter by proximity. You head home as the bells toll. Each chime sounds like a countdown. To what? You're not sure? Maybe the next name, maybe the last. At your door, you pause. There's a small pile of rocks, deliberately stacked, one on top of another. 4 stones. You've seen it before. It's a child's game, or a warning, or a prayer. You don't know which. You leave it untouched. Inside, the room feels smaller, not physically, existentially. You sit on the bed. You don't undress. There's no one to impress, no one to rest for. You think of your nephew. He used to ask you to show him the axe, called it shiny. You told him it wasn't a toy. Now he doesn't visit. His parents said your presence was bad for his soul. You agree. You glance at the ceiling again. Still no carvings. Still no proof you were here, except for the smell and the silence. You lie down. The mattress exhales. Mildew. You face the wall. You whisper, "Good night." No one replies, because kids don't say hello anymore. And adults? They stopped trying years ago. You can't sleep again, so you do what you always do. You pick up the axe and go outside. Behind your shack, there's a stump. Old, cracked, loyal. You've hit it more times than you've hit people. Barely. You place a log on top, round, wrapped in cloth, not suspicious at all. Except for the eyes you carved into it last winter. You don't remember why, or maybe you remember too well. You take your stance, lift the axe, swing, thunk, too shallow, swing again, crack, better, again, until your breath stutters, until your thoughts stop saying names. You pause. The cloth has slipped. The wooden face stares back. It's smiling. Somehow, you hate that. You drop the axe, sit on the grass, cold, wet, quiet. You think about the first time you practiced. You thought you'd become skilled, precise, respected. Instead, you got efficient and alone. You stare at the face. You whisper, "Sorry." You don't know to who. Probably everyone. The wind answers with silence. You wipe the blade on your sleeve. That was the clean sleeve. Of course, you go back inside, lie down. The axe rests beside you. The practice head stays outside, smiling, waiting. You close your eyes, and tonight, thankfully, you don't dream. You wake up. You don't remember falling asleep, but your eyes open to darkness, and your body aches like it's been apologizing all night. Your mouth tastes like wood smoke and iron. Your fingers are curled into fists. You don't know why. The axe is still next to you. It always is. You don't trust locks or memories. You sit up. The room hasn't changed. Still one chair, still one table, still one you. You dreamed. You think. Something soft. A field, maybe. A name someone used to call you. But the dream's gone now, and in its place, the weight, the familiar kind. Heavy, wordless, permanent. You reach under the bed, pull out the ledger, open to the last page. Today's name is still there, still bleeding through the paper. You press your hand against it. It doesn't answer. Of course not. You close the book, put it back. You tell yourself you'll stop keeping it. You won't. Outside, the wind howls. The wood creaks like it wants to leave. You lie back down, not to sleep, just to wait for the morning to forget you again. Your eyes flutter, almost, but then you hear it. Laughter, soft, cruel, not yours. You sit up, hold your breath. It's not in your house, it's in your head. Still, you check the door. Still, you grip the axe. You pace. You count the steps from one end of the room to the other. 7.5. You count again. Still 7.5. That's what your life is now. A loop, a hallway with no exits, an inventory of names and regrets with no receipts. You try to lie down again. You don't bother removing your boots. There's no point. No one will see. No one will care. You turn your head to the side, stare at the wall. You think about carving something there. Your name, your last thought. Just one word, but you don't move. because dreams aren't allowed. Not here, not anymore. You lie still. The room doesn't move. The air doesn't stir. Even the rats seem tired of you. The mattress groans under your weight. It smells like old sweat and failed redemption. You pull the blanket over your face. It doesn't help. You can still feel the night watching. You try to sleep, try to find a corner of your mind that isn't haunted, a memory that isn't soaked in red, a thought that isn't someone's last. You fail. You shift. The axe slides slightly on the floor beside you. You reach down, touch the handle. Still there, still sharp, still the only thing in your life that behaves. You listen, not for danger, just for proof that the world still exists outside your door. An owl, a cough, a drunk stumbling home from someone else's mistake. Life goes on, not for you, but for everyone else. You close your eyes again. This time, it almost happens. Almost. But then the ledger comes back. Page after page. Names like drum beats. Faces like paintings you can't stop staring at. Some smile, some scream. Some ask you why. You never answer. You don't know how. You turn to your side. The straw pokes your back like tiny accusations. You whisper something. Maybe a name. Maybe a prayer. Maybe a confession. No one hears it. Not even you. The night stretches. Too long to rest. Too short to matter. Eventually, your body gives in. Not to comfort. To exhaustion, you drift. Not into dreams. Into nothing. Into blank silence that isn't quite peace. And that's how you sleep, if you can call it that. You weren't the king. You weren't the poet. Not even the villain in someone else's story. You were the hand, the blade, the silence afterward. No one builds statues for you, but everyone remembers your work. And tomorrow, you'll do it all again. You wake up to the sound of someone screaming. Not in agony. At least not yet. Just screaming. It's how most mornings begin out here. Your bed is a burlap sack stuffed with something that used to be straw, but now feels more like betrayal and mildew. You roll over and hit your head on someone's knee. He doesn't move. You hope he's just sleeping. You don't check. You try to sit up. Your back cracks like a bad omen. You stretch your arms and promptly elbow someone else in the face. You both apologize, but neither of you mean it. He spits blood. It might be yours. Congratulations. You survived the night. Barely. Now for the hard part. The rest of today. Outside the tent, it's chaos wrapped in fog. The camp smells like unwashed fear, burned oats, and armor grease. You step into your boots. They're still wet from yesterday. You don't ask why. You don't want to know. Someone yells, "Form up!" You pretend not to hear. You're busy stringing your bow. A process that should be simple, but instead involves praying it doesn't snap in your face like last time. You check your arrows. 12. No. Wait. 7. And one of them is bent like a question mark. You look around. The sun hasn't risen, but the yelling has. Your captain is already red in the face and screaming names, most of which sound like ancient curses. You're not on the list, which either means you're safe or already forgotten. Someone asks, "Breakfast?" Someone else laughs. You don't. Your stomach growls like a war drum. You hush it with yesterday's crust. A horse kicks over a cooking pot. The fire dies. Someone screams again. This time, it sounds more permanent. You sigh. Pull your hood up. Wipe a smear of something. Blood, gravy, off your bow. And you whisper the morning prayer of all forgotten soldiers. Please let me be someone else's collateral today. You shuffle toward the food line, or what passes for one. It's less of a line and more of a collective sigh in human form. The cook is a man named Bren. He has one eye, no visible soul, and a ladle that might double as a murder weapon. He slaps a gray paste into your bowl. You ask what it is. He says, "Turnip surprise." You ask what the surprise is. He says, "There's no turnip." You sit on a log that sinks when you breathe. Across from you is a boy. 15, maybe. He's gnawing on something that might have once been bread. He offers you a bite. You decline. You're still recovering from last time. A horn sounds in the distance, not the signal horn. The panic one. Everyone freezes. Except Bren. He keeps ladling. Either he's fearless, deaf, or done caring. You drop your bowl. You pick it up. You drop it again. This is the rhythm of your mornings now. Eat, fear, repeat. Someone vomits nearby. Not because of nerves, because of breakfast. You check your gear. Your bow is splintered. Your arrows are mismatched. One is clearly someone else's. You keep it. Finders, keepers. There's a speech. The captain climbs onto a barrel to deliver it. He says something about glory, unity, and dying with honor. The barrel collapses under him. You try not to laugh. You fail. He makes eye contact. You pretend it was a cough. The sky lightens. Not with sunlight, just with slightly less gloom. Someone taps your shoulder, says, "Ready?" You say, "No." But you stand up anyway, because today, like every day, you're underfed, overtired, and slightly more afraid of your own side than the enemy. But you're an archer, and archers don't get second breakfasts. They get second chances to regret showing up. You take your position on the ridge. It's not much of a ridge, just a slope that's slightly less muddy than the rest. It smells like fear and wet leather. You crouch behind a stack of hay bales. They're supposed to be protection. They're also slightly on fire. No one mentions this. You knock your first arrow. Your hand shakes. Not from fear, from hunger. Also, maybe fear. Your captain yells, "Loose on my mark." You don't hear the mark, too busy trying not to sneeze. You fire anyway. The arrow arcs beautifully into a tree behind you. A nearby soldier laughs, then promptly gets hit in the face with a thrown rock. You don't laugh. You're learning. You reload. This time, you aim lower. You squint. The battlefield blurs into smoke, screams, and someone's discarded sandal. You shoot again. It hits something. You think it might have been the enemy. You also think it might have been a goat. A horn sounds again. This time, it's the charge. You are not part of the charge. You are support. Support means shoot until they find you. Then run faster than your reputation. A horse gallops past, riderless, covered in what you hope is mud. You crawl forward. Your foot lands in something soft. It makes a noise. You pretend you didn't hear it. 3 arrows left. One is cracked. One is bent. One is beautiful. You save the beautiful one. Maybe for later. Maybe for yourself. Someone yells your name. You ignore them. Could be orders. Could be goodbye. You loose one more shot. It flies true. It strikes a man in full armor and bounces off with a noise like disappointment. He turns to look at you. You duck. You've officially contributed, kind of. The battle continues. You reload again. Your fingers ache. Your soul does not. It left around arrow 2. You whisper, "Next time, I'm faking a limp. It's noon." Not that you can see the sun. It's hiding behind a thick curtain of smoke, clouds, and divine indifference. You've been crouching for 3 hours. Your legs are no longer legs. They are abstract concepts of pain. Your spine makes noises when you move. It also makes noises when you don't. You reach for another arrow. Your fingers find an empty quiver. You look again. Still empty. You turn it upside down, hoping one might fall out of the void. Nothing, except a beetle. It crawls away. Even it has somewhere better to be. You signal for resupply. No one comes. You shout. Still nothing. Finally, a young page lobs a bundle of arrows your way. Most land in the mud. 2 snap on impact. You say thank you anyway. He shrugs and runs back into the smoke. Probably to die, or nap. Either sounds merciful. You inspect the new arrows. They're not yours. Too long. Too warped. One is more stick than shaft. You load it anyway. Desperation has a learning curve. You try to stand. You regret it immediately. Something in your back says, no, in Latin. You drop to your knees again, which crack like dry firewood. A nearby soldier asks if you're all right. You say fine, which, in battlefield terms, means I might scream if I breathe too deeply. The captain yells again. You've stopped listening to the words. Now you just read the level of rage in his eyebrows. Another arrow loosed. This one flies clean and strikes a shield. Not great, but better than a goat. Progress. Behind you, someone's crying. You offer them a bent arrow as comfort. They take it, say nothing. That's the closest thing to friendship you felt in days. Your bowstring snaps. Of course it does. You don't even react. You just stare at it, nod slowly, and add it to your growing list of betrayals. The cook, the arrows, the weather, your lower back. God. You tie the string back together using a bit of twine and blind optimism. It'll hold. Probably. If not, well, at least it's not your problem anymore after that. You lean against a rock. It's wet, mossy, and vaguely judgmental, like everything else today. And somewhere, somehow, you begin to accept a truth deeper than your pain. You are no longer a man with a weapon. You are a weapon with knees that beg for mercy. The sun finally breaks through the clouds. It is not warm. It is not comforting. It is an act of aggression. You squint into the light. Your helmet cooks your scalp like an iron pot. You consider taking it off. You also consider spontaneous combustion. Both seem reasonable. The field is quiet now. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that means either A, the enemy's regrouping, or B, everyone forgot you exist. You hope it's B. Someone yells, "Water!" The response is laughter and a half-full flask passed down the line. It smells like vinegar and regret. You drink it anyway. You instantly regret it more. Sweat pours down your back. It pools in places you don't talk about. Your tunic clings like a desperate X. Everything itches. You try to air out your underarms. A bee flies in. You panic. You slap your chest like you're trying to kill a ghost. The bee escapes. Your dignity does not. A knight clomps past on a majestic white steed. His armor shines like polished coin. He does not acknowledge you. You fantasize about tripping the horse. Just a little. You look down at your arms. Sunburn. Already. Fantastic. You're turning the color of boiled ham. Suddenly. Drums. Enemy drums. Rhythmic. Loud. Someone says, they're coming. Someone else says, good, I'm bored. You try to knock an arrow. Your hands are too sweaty. It slips. You drop it. It lands in mud. You sigh. You wipe it off using your shirt, which also has mud. Congratulations. You've made a paste. Your captain reappears, covered in blood, none of it his. He shouts something inspiring. Probably you don't hear it. Your ears are ringing from dehydration and pessimism. More shouting. The enemy crests the ridge. You squint again. They look tall. Why do they always look tall? A fellow archer mutters, "My arrow's warped." You say, So is my spine. Neither of you laughs. You raise your bow, line up a shot, and the sun stabs you in the eyes like a golden betrayal. You blink, you fire, you hit a tree. Again, the tree is now the most injured object on the battlefield. So far, you decide not to fire the next one. Instead, you sit down, right in the dirt, because if you're going to miss anyway, you might as well be comfortable. It starts with one trumpet, then two. Then the unmistakable sound of your captain screaming, "Fall back!" But in a way that makes it sound like he's definitely not falling back first. You look up from your patch of emotional dirt. The enemy is running, fast, towards you. You do the only sensible thing. You fire an arrow in their general direction, and then trip over your own foot trying to run. Your quiver spills. Arrows everywhere. Mud, blood, hoof prints. You try to scoop them up. You manage 4. And a rock. You keep the rock. You don't know why. Your legs scream in protest. You ignore them. Your back joins in. You offer a firm, "Not now." You sprint past a pile of broken spears and broken dreams. Someone grabs your arm. You slap them. Turns out they were trying to give you water. Oops. You duck under a branch, then into a bush, then into a second bush. Now you're off course. Now you're lost. Now you're in a pig pen. There are pigs. They are judging you. You crawl out the other side smelling like bacon, lies, and defeat. Someone yells, "To the tree line." You have no idea where that is. You follow a guy with nice calves. You assume he knows things. Arrows whiz past. One grazes your ear. You scream, not because of pain, because that was your last good ear. You leap over a ditch. You almost make it. Your foot catches. Your face meets dirt, the kind of dirt that's been waiting all day for a face. You roll, groan, rise, keep running, because dignity is already dead. But you're not. You reach the tree line. Sort of. It's more of a shrub line, but you'll take it. You collapse behind a stump. Your breath sounds like a dying accordion. Your stomach has given up hope. You're 70% sweat and 30% grass stains now. Someone flops beside you. He grins. "You ran fast," he says. You nod. Then you whisper, "I left my bow back there." He stares, then hands you his. You stare back. Then both of you laugh like lunatics. Because in the middle of all this, the sunburn, the mud, the screaming, there's something almost beautiful about surviving long enough to make fun of it, almost. The sun is finally setting. You know this, because the sky has changed from blinding white to mildly threatening orange. Also, because no one's yelling anymore, just groaning. You limp back into camp, if you can call it that. It's more of a collection of ripped tents and broken promises. Someone's cooking something over a fire. It smells like hope, but it's actually just burning moss. You ask, "What's for dinner?" A man with one eyebrow and no patience says, "Don't push your luck." There's a line at the mess tent. It moves slower than medieval medicine. You stand in it anyway, because standing is easier than thinking about how little your armor protected you today. By the time you reach the front, the pot is empty. You look in. There's a turnip stub and a beetle making eye contact. You nod at him. He nods back. You both understand struggle. The cook shrugs, hands you a bowl of hot water, says it's soup. You ask what's in it. He says, "Whatever used to be." You drink it. It tastes like sadness and someone else's spoon. A fellow archer joins you. He has 2 arrows in his thigh. Doesn't seem to notice. He's too focused on chewing something that might be leather. Or regret. You sit on a rock. It's sharp. You don't care. Your entire body is a museum of bruises anyway. A dog wanders past, carrying a chunk of bread in its mouth. You consider tackling it, but it looks stronger than you. In the distance, someone sings. It's out of tune and out of place, but it's something. You sigh, not because the day is over, but because you know it isn't. Dinner is done. Kind of. Your stomach disagrees, but it's no longer part of the voting committee. You lie back. The dirt is cold. Your breath fogs. Your hands tremble. And just before your eyes close, you whisper, "If I die tonight, at least I won't have to eat breakfast." You're sitting around the campfire. Well, not a fire. Just 3 sad embers and a lot of wishful thinking. Still, men gather, because the only thing warmer than fire is pretending someone else has it worse. Someone starts talking. It's old Darnick. He's missing 2 fingers and most of a memory, which makes him the perfect historian. He says, "I once saw an archer hit a man straight through the eye at 300 paces. You nod. You do not believe him. No one does. But disbelief is polite here. Reality isn't. Another soldier lifts his shirt, shows off a scar across his belly, says, "Boar tusk?" Someone else says, "No, your ex-wife." Laughter, the kind that comes from a place of collective rot. You're asked if you have any scars. You say no, but you do. They're just the kind no one can see, the kind that itch when people ask questions. Across the circle, a boy named Rin fiddles with a cracked arrowhead. He's too young, too clean. He still believes this war has a purpose. He leans over to you, whispers, "Do you think we'll make it home?" You say nothing, not because you don't know the answer, but because you do. The wind picks up. It smells like blood and burned leather. Someone throws a log on the fire. It hisses, not in anger, just in exhaustion. Then someone sings. It's soft, broken, the kind of song you'd sing to a dying horse or a child you never got to meet. No one claps, but no one talks over it. That's the highest form of respect here. You close your eyes for just a moment, not to sleep, just to forget the shape of the battlefield, just long enough to remember a different sky. When you open them, the circle is smaller. 2 men are gone. No one says anything. You stare into the fire, watch it flicker, and realize it's just like you, burning through what little it has left. Because stopping isn't allowed, you crawl back to your sleeping spot, which is just the driest rectangle of dirt you could find earlier. It's not dry anymore. Nothing is. You take off your boots. Steam rises. You don't ask questions. You just apologize to the night air for the scent. Beside you, your bow, cracked, splintered, loyal. You run a hand over it like a dying pet. It creaks. That's its version of saying, "Still here?" You check your quiver. 4 arrows left. 2 are straight. 1's crooked. The last one is just a stick you sharpened in panic. You keep it because hope is cheap and sometimes pointy. You start reshaping the crooked one. It cracks in half. You stare at the pieces. Then you tie them together with a strip of your own sleeve. Functionally useless, symbolically also useless, but it makes you feel busy. Someone nearby is muttering prayers. Someone else is snoring like a tortured goat. A third is quietly crying. You're all making music together in the saddest band ever formed. You think about tomorrow, about the battle, about how, eventually, the enemy will run out of arrows. Or you will. Whichever happens, first decides the plot twist. You tuck your bow beneath your arm. You curl around your remaining arrows like they're treasures, like they matter, like you do. You stare at the stars. They're blurry tonight. Or maybe your eyes are. Same effect. Someone whispers, "Do you think they'll attack at dawn?" Someone answers, "Depends. Do you think they hate sleep too?" You close your eyes, just for a second, and before you drift, you whisper the quietest, saddest vow an archer can make. "If I've only got one good arrow tomorrow, please let it count. It's deep into the night. Too late to sleep. Too early to pretend you're awake. The fire's gone out. No one bothers to relight it. Even the sparks seem tired. You lie flat on the ground, wrapped in a blanket that smells like damp rope and disappointment. Your knees throb. Your neck is stuck at an angle. Only owls should survive. But you don't move, because moving means admitting you're still here. The moon hangs above like an eye that forgot how to blink. It watches you, silently, judging. You try to cry quietly, because loud crying is for people who still have energy. Yours comes out in hiccups, little pathetic ones that sound like broken hinges. Someone nearby coughs blood into the dirt. He whispers, "Still here." No one responds. That's the closest thing to a census this army has. You think about home, not because you miss it, but because you're not sure if it was real. It's been so long. It feels like something you borrowed from someone else's memory. A rat runs across your chest. You don't flinch. You're past flinching. You just nod and say, "Evening." Your bow lies beside you, still cracked, still yours. You touch it like a relic. Because in a world this cruel, loyalty from wood feels like love. The wind picks up. It slips under your blanket like a thief, stealing the last bit of warmth you didn't know you were saving. You look at the stars. They look back with indifference. You whisper names. People you knew. People you lost. People you forgot. Some never had names, just faces and silence. And under that moon, in that breathless cold, you finally let go of something. Not your life. Not yet. But the idea that you'll ever get out clean. You close your eyes, not because you're tired. You were tired 5 battles ago. Now you're just paused. The ground beneath you is frozen solid. Or maybe it's just your bones. You're not sure where the frost ends and you begin. Sleep doesn't come. It arrives, hesitates, then walks away like it remembered a better appointment. What you get instead is something else. A half-conscious drift, punctuated by phantom screams and the sound of your own teeth grinding. You dream, sort of. A memory, your first bow. It snapped in half during training. Your instructor called it a lesson in expectations. You didn't know he meant life. You roll over. A rock presses into your ribs. You don't move it. It's the only thing reminding you. You're still physical nearby. A man whispers in his sleep. A woman's name. Then a scream. Then silence again. You envy him. Not for the dream. For the forgetting. A wolf howls in the distance. Or maybe that was just wind pretending to care. You look at your hands. They're cracked, split from cold and string tension, and trying too hard to matter. You tuck them under your arms, curl up like a comma. Not the end of a sentence, just a breath between two unfinished things. Tomorrow, there will be orders, marches, more arrows, or fewer. Doesn't matter. You'll still have to stand, still have to aim, still have to miss. You whisper to no one. If I wake up, fine. If I don't, that's someone else's problem. And finally, not sleep, but stillness. Not rest, but surrender. Not peace, but the closest thing your life allows.